I never thought a wedding could destroy so many lives in a single night. But when you mix $5 million, a closeted gay man, and a family that values appearances above everything else, you get the perfect recipe for disaster. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old, and what happened at my cousin's wedding changed not just my life, but the lives of everyone I thought I knew. The moment I'm about to tell you about happened on a Saturday night in June, in one of those mansions you only see in magazines. Crystal chandeliers, imported flowers covering every surface, a string quartet playing Vivaldi. Everything was perfect, too perfect, and I was standing in the middle of that perfection, holding a glass of champagne that cost more than my monthly rent, while my Aunt Patricia walked toward me with that smile I'd learned to fear since I was a child. The smile that said she was about to say something that would ruin everything. She stopped, right in front of me, close enough that I could smell her Chanel perfume mixed with the scent of white lilies that decorated the entire hall. Her eyes, the same green as my mother's, looked at me with something between pity and disgust. Then she said it, loud enough for the people around us to hear. "Daniel, dear, we need to talk about your little problem. This circus has gone on long enough, don't you think? Your mother is dying of shame, and frankly, so am I. A man of your age, still single, refusing to bring a decent woman to family events. We all know what that means." I felt the champagne glass tremble in my hand. Around us, conversations stopped. Heads turned. My uncle Roberto, Patricia's husband, approached with that expression of false concern he always wore when he wanted to look like the reasonable one in the family. And there, a few steps behind them, I saw him. Javier, the man who had been my secret for 8 months. The man I'd been hiding from my family because I always knew, this moment would come. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand what happened that night, to understand why everything exploded the way it did, I need to take you back. Back to when I still believed I could keep both lives separate. Back to when I still thought I could be the Daniel my family wanted, and the Daniel I really was. I grew up in a family where appearances were everything. My father owned a construction company that had built half the buildings in the city. My mother came from old money, the kind that's been around so long, people forget it ever had to be earned. I had 2 older sisters, both married to successful men, both with children who attended the best private schools. And then there was me, the youngest son, the one who was supposed to carry on the family name and business. I did everything right, at least on the surface. I studied business administration at the university my father chose. I worked at the company, learning every aspect of the construction business. I dated women my mother approved of, girls from good families with the right last names and the right connections. I wore the right clothes, said the right things at dinner parties, played golf at the country club on Sundays, but there was always something missing, something I couldn't name, couldn't acknowledge, couldn't even think about too directly. When I was with those women, those perfectly appropriate girlfriends, I felt like I was performing in a play. I knew my lines, I hit my marks, but I never felt present, never felt real. I was 33 when I met Javier. It was at a construction site, actually. His architectural firm had been hired to design a new commercial complex we were building downtown. He showed up to the first meeting wearing jeans and work boots, his hair slightly too long, a leather portfolio under his arm. He wasn't what I expected. Most architects who worked on projects this size came in expensive suits, trying to impress. Javier just came in looking like himself. He was 41, 8 years older than me. He had these hands that were always moving when he talked, gesturing, drawing shapes in the air. There was a small scar above his left eyebrow that he'd gotten, I later learned, falling off a ladder when he was an intern. He drank his coffee black and too hot, always burning his tongue and not caring. He had this habit of pushing his glasses up his nose with his middle finger, and every time he did it, I found myself watching. The project meetings became the highlight of my week. I started finding excuses to visit the site when I knew he'd be there. I told myself it was professional interest, that I was just being thorough, making sure everything was going according to plan. But I knew, deep down, I knew exactly what I was doing. It was 3 months before anything happened between us. 3 months of conversations that lasted longer than they needed to, of standing closer than was strictly necessary while reviewing blueprints, of looks that held just a beat too long. 3 months of me going home and lying awake, trying not to think about the way his voice sounded when he laughed, the way his shirt pulled across his shoulders when he reached for something. The first time was in his office. Late on a Thursday evening. Everyone else had gone home. We were going over some last-minute changes to the design, and I made a joke about something. I don't even remember what. He laughed, and when I looked at him, really looked at him, he was already looking at me. Not at the plans, not at the computer screen. At me. I don't know who moved first. Maybe we both did. But suddenly we were kissing, and it was nothing like kissing the women I dated. This was real. This was present. This was me, finally, actually feeling something. Afterward, sitting in his office with the city lights spreading out below us, I started to panic. I told him this couldn't happen again. I told him about my family, about the expectations, about the life I was supposed to be living. He just listened, his hand resting on my knee, solid and warm and real. Then he said, "I'm not asking you to blow up your life, Daniel, but I'm also not going to pretend this didn't mean something. So you need to decide what you want to do about that." What I did was see him again the next week, and the week after that, and every week for the next 8 months. We were careful. We met at his apartment, never at restaurants where someone might see us. We didn't talk about the future. We existed in this bubble where the outside world couldn't reach us. I told myself I could manage it. I could have this private part of my life and still maintain the public persona my family expected. I could be both people. It was exhausting, but I thought I could do it. Then my cousin Valentina announced her engagement to Sebastian, heir to a hotel empire, and the whole family went into overdrive planning what they called the wedding of the decade. $5 million for one night. A guest list of 300 people. My mother on the planning committee, my Aunt Patricia acting as if she was organizing a state dinner. And of course the question came up, who was I bringing as my date? I tried to deflect. I said I'd probably come alone, that I was too busy with work to be seeing anyone seriously. My mother looked at me with this expression of deep disappointment I'd seen too many times before. My father made some comment about me needing to get serious about settling down. My sisters exchanged knowing looks across the dinner table, but it was Aunt Patricia who wouldn't let it go. She started calling me, leaving messages about nice young women she knew, daughters of her friends who would be perfect for me. She showed up at my office one day with a woman named Carla, ambushing me with an impromptu lunch date. Carla was lovely, perfectly pleasant, and I spent the entire meal feeling like I was suffocating. The pressure built as the wedding approached. Every family dinner became an interrogation. Every phone call included some comment about my single status. My mother started crying during one conversation, saying she just wanted to see me happy, settled, normal. That word kept coming up, as if there was something fundamentally abnormal about me that needed to be fixed. I started having trouble sleeping. I'd lie awake, my mind racing, trying to figure out how to make everyone happy, trying to figure out if there was some way to be the son they wanted and still be myself. The two things felt increasingly incompatible. Javier noticed. Of course he noticed. We were lying in his bed one night, about a month before the wedding, and he asked me what was wrong. I told him everything. About the pressure, about my family's expectations, about feeling like I was being torn in two. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You know you can't keep doing this forever, right? Eventually you're going to have to choose." I didn't want to hear that. I got defensive. I said he didn't understand what it was like to have a family like mine, to have these kinds of obligations. He just looked at me with this expression that was somehow both sad and knowing. "I do understand," he said quietly. "I understand that you're scared. I understand that coming out to your family feels impossible. But Daniel, what you're doing right now, this hiding, this pretending, it's not sustainable, and it's not fair to either of us." We didn't talk about it again after that night, but his words stayed with me, echoing in my head during every family dinner, every phone call, every moment when I had to pretend to be someone I wasn't. The week before the wedding, my mother called me crying, really crying, not the delicate tears she usually deployed for effect. She said Aunt Patricia had been saying things, making suggestions about me, about my situation. She begged me to bring someone to the wedding, anyone, just to stop the gossip. I almost did it. I almost called Carla, almost asked her to be my fake date for the night, but something stopped me. Maybe it was Javier's words echoing in my head. Maybe it was just exhaustion from pretending for so long. Whatever it was, I told my mother I was coming alone. The wedding day arrived. The ceremony was at 4 in the afternoon, in the gardens of a mansion that had been in Sebastian's family for 3 generations. I put on my tuxedo, the one that had cost $2,000 and fit perfectly, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked exactly like the man my family wanted me to be. Successful, well-dressed, appropriate. And I felt absolutely nothing. The ceremony was beautiful, in that excessive way wealthy people's weddings always are. Valentina looked stunning. Sebastian looked proud. The string quartet played Pachelbel's canon. Everyone cried at the right moments. I stood with my family, playing my part, and felt like I was watching it all from very far away. The reception was in the mansion's ballroom, a space so large and ornate, it felt more like a museum than a room where people actually gathered. The ceiling was painted with clouds and cherubs. The walls were covered in silk. The flowers alone probably cost more than most people's cars. I found my assigned seat at the family table, between my sister Elena and my cousin Marco. The champagne was flowing freely. People were laughing, dancing, celebrating, and I felt like I was suffocating in my expensive tuxedo, drowning in the sea of forced smiles and polite conversation. That's when I saw Javier. He was standing near the entrance to the ballroom, talking to Sebastian. He was wearing a dark gray suit, his hair styled differently than I usually saw it, more formal. And I realized with a jolt of panic that of course he was here. His firm had designed the renovation of this mansion 2 years ago. Of course Sebastian's family would have invited him. Our eyes met across the room. He gave me a small nod, nothing that would draw attention, but I felt it like an electric shock. He was here, in this space where I'd always kept my 2 lives carefully separated. Here, where my family could see us together. I tried to act normal. I talked to my cousins. I danced with my sisters. I made small talk with distant relatives I barely knew. But I was hyper-aware of exactly where Javier was at every moment. I saw him talking to other guests, laughing at someone's joke, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. He looked relaxed, comfortable, like he belonged here. And maybe that's what made me so nervous. He belonged here, in this world of successful professionals and expensive parties, in a way I never quite had. He was authentically himself in every space he occupied, while I was always performing, always pretending, always hiding. I was at the bar getting another drink when my uncle Roberto approached me. He clapped me on the shoulder with that false heartiness he always used, and said, "Daniel, my boy, your aunt wants to talk to you. She's found someone she thinks you should meet." My stomach dropped. I knew what this meant. Another setup, another nice young woman from a good family, another performance I'd have to give. I wanted to refuse, to walk away, but Roberto was already guiding me through the crowd with his hand on my back, and Patricia was waiting near the windows that overlooked the gardens. Next to her was a woman in a blue dress, blonde hair perfectly styled, smile perfectly practiced. Patricia's face lit up when she saw me. "Daniel, darling, this is Sophia. Her father owns that new hotel chain, you know the one. Sophia, this is my nephew Daniel. He works in construction, very successful, very eligible." Sophia extended her hand. I shook it automatically, going through the motions I'd performed so many times before. We made small talk. She told me about her work in marketing. I told her about a project we were working on downtown. It was all perfectly pleasant and perfectly meaningless. But Patricia wasn't done. She kept steering the conversation, dropping hints about how nice it would be to see me settled down, how Sophia was exactly the kind of woman who would fit perfectly into our family. And with every word, I felt the walls closing in. That's when I saw Javier again. He was standing about 10 feet away, talking to someone I didn't recognize, but he was watching me. I could feel his eyes on me, could feel him seeing this whole performance, this whole charade, and something inside me snapped. I don't know if it was the champagne, or the exhaustion from pretending for so long, or just the fact that Javier was right there, witnessing me betray myself yet again. But I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't stand there and let Patricia parade me in front of Sophia like I was merchandise to be evaluated and purchased. I excused myself, mumbling something about needing air. I walked away, ignoring Patricia's protests, ignoring Sophia's confused expression. I walked through the ballroom, past the dancing couples and the laughing groups, past the champagne fountains and the elaborate floral arrangements, until I reached the doors that led out to the terrace. The night air was cool against my face. I could hear the music from inside, muffled by the thick walls. I walked to the edge of the terrace, gripping the stone balustrade, trying to breathe, trying to think. I heard footsteps behind me. I knew, without turning around, that it was Javier. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I laughed, but it came out bitter. No, I'm really not okay." He stood next to me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of him, but not touching. "Not here, where anyone could see us. Your aunt seems determined to marry you off," he said. "She's been determined for years." "They all have been." I turned to look at him. I'm sorry you have to see this." "See what? You pretending to be someone you're not?" His voice was gentle, but there was something underneath it. Hurt, maybe, or just exhaustion. "Daniel, I've been watching you do that for 8 months. That's not fair, isn't it?" He looked at me directly now. "I knew what I was getting into when this started. I knew you weren't out, that you were dealing with family pressure. I told myself I could handle it, that I could be patient. But watching you in there, watching you let your aunt set you up with some woman, watching you smile and play along like none of this matters, like I don't matter." "You do matter," I interrupted. "You matter more than anyone in that room." "Then why am I still a secret?" I didn't have an answer for that. Or rather, I had too many answers, all of them inadequate, because I was scared, because I didn't want to lose my family, because I'd spent my whole life trying to be the person they wanted me to be, and I didn't know how to stop. We stood there in silence for a moment. Inside, I could hear someone making a toast, glasses clinking, applause. "I can't do this anymore," Javier said finally. "I can't be the person you hide. I can't keep watching you pretend I don't exist." My chest felt tight. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you need to choose. I'm not asking you to come out to your whole family tonight. I'm not asking you to make some grand gesture, but I need to know that you're moving towards something, that this isn't just going to be our reality forever. Because if it is, if you're never going to be able to acknowledge me, acknowledge us, then I can't keep doing this." Before I could respond, I heard Patricia's voice from the doorway. "Daniel, are you out here? Sofia is looking for—" She stopped abruptly when she saw Javier standing next to me. Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, I didn't realize you were busy." There was something in her tone, something sharp and knowing. She looked between us, and I saw the moment understanding clicked into place. Her expression changed from confusion to shock to disgust in the space of a heartbeat. "Patricia," I started, but I didn't know how to finish the sentence. She took a step back. I see what's happening here." Her voice was getting louder. "This is why you won't bring a proper date to family events. This is why you're always making excuses. This is your little problem." "Patricia, please." But she was already turning back toward the ballroom, and I knew with absolute certainty that she was going to tell everyone. She was going to walk back into that room full of my family and friends and announce exactly what she'd discovered. I looked at Javier. He was watching me with this expression that was somehow both challenging and sympathetic, waiting to see what I would do, and I realized this was it. This was the moment. I could run after Patricia, try to convince her she was wrong, try to salvage the lie, or I could stop running. I thought about my mother's tears, about my father's expectations, about my sister's perfect lives. I thought about the 34 years I'd spent trying to be someone I wasn't. I thought about the 8 months I'd spent with Javier, the only time in my life I'd felt completely real. I thought about what it would cost me to keep pretending, and what it would cost me to stop. "Wait here," I told Javier. Then I walked back into the ballroom. Patricia was already in the middle of the room, talking to my mother and Uncle Roberto. I could see from my mother's face that Patricia had already told them. Her expression was one of pure horror. I walked up to them. Around us, people were starting to notice something was wrong. Conversations were stopping. Heads were turning. "Mom," I said, "we need to talk." "Not here," she hissed. "Not now. How could you do this? How could you humiliate us like this?" "I haven't done anything to humiliate you." "Haven't done anything?" Patricia's voice was shrill now, carrying across the room. "You've been lying to us for God knows how long. You've been with men, while we've all been trying to help you, trying to find you a nice woman." "I don't want a nice woman," I said, and my voice was louder than I intended. The room was almost completely quiet now. Everyone was watching. I've never wanted that, and I'm done pretending I do. My father appeared at my mother's side. His face was red, his jaw clenched. "Daniel, this is not the time or place for this discussion." "Then when is the time? When is it ever going to be the right time to tell you the truth? That I'm gay, that I've been gay my whole life, that I've been lying to you and to myself because I was terrified of this exact moment." My mother made a sound like she'd been struck. My father's hands were balling into fists at his sides. And Patricia looked almost triumphant, like she'd been proven right about something she'd suspected all along. "You're making a scene," my father said through gritted teeth. "You're ruining your cousin's wedding." "I'm ruining it? I'm not the one who decided to make this public. I would have been happy to keep living my life quietly, not bothering anyone. But that wasn't enough for you, was it? You couldn't just let me be. You had to push and try to force me into being something I'm not." "We were trying to help you," my mother said, and she was crying now, real tears. "We were trying to save you from making a terrible mistake. The only mistake I've made is waiting this long to tell you the truth." I looked around the room. Everyone was staring. My sisters looked shocked. My cousins looked uncomfortable. Valentina, the bride, was standing near the head table looking like she wanted to disappear. And there, near the terrace doors, was Javier, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I'm sorry," I said, and I was talking to Valentina now. "I'm sorry your wedding got turned into this. That wasn't my intention. But I'm not sorry for being who I am, and I'm not going to apologize for that anymore." I started walking toward the exit. My father called my name, but I didn't stop. I walked past the champagne fountains and the elaborate centerpieces, past the shocked faces and whispered conversations, past everything I'd spent my whole life trying to be. Javier met me at the terrace doors. He didn't say anything, just fell into step beside me as we walked out of the ballroom, down the grand staircase, out of the mansion into the cool night air. We were halfway to the parking area when I heard running footsteps behind us. I turned to see my sister Elena, her dress hiked up so she could run in her heels. "Daniel, wait," she called. I stopped. Javier squeezed my hand once, then stepped back to give us space. Elena reached me, breathing hard. She looked at me for a long moment, and I braced myself for whatever she was going to say. Anger, disappointment, disgust. Instead, she hugged me. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "I'm so proud of you." I felt something break open in my chest. I hugged her back and I realized I was crying. "Mom and Dad," I started, "are going to need time," she finished. "They're scared. They don't understand. But Daniel, you did the right thing. You can't keep living for them. You have to live for yourself." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Is that him?" she asked, nodding toward Javier. "Yeah, that's Javier." She walked over to him, extended her hand. "I'm Elena, Daniel's sister, and I'm sorry you had to witness that disaster." Javier shook her hand. "I'm sorry too, but I'm also glad it's finally out in the open." Elena looked between us, then smiled. "Me too. Daniel's been miserable for years. I'm glad he finally found someone that makes him happy." She turned back to me. "Call me tomorrow, okay? We'll talk." She hugged me again, then headed back toward the mansion, leaving Javier and me alone in the darkness. "Well," Javier said after a moment, "that was dramatic." I laughed, and it felt good. That's one word for it. "Are you okay?" I thought about the question. I'd just blown up my relationship with my parents. I'd caused a scene at my cousin's $5 million wedding. I'd outed myself in front of 300 people. By tomorrow, everyone in our social circle would know. There would be consequences, fallout I couldn't even begin to predict. But standing there in the cool night air, with Javier beside me, I felt lighter than I had in years. "Yeah," I said. "I think I actually am." He took my hand, right there where anyone could see us. "What do you want to do now?" "I want to go home, your home. I want to stop hiding. I want to figure out how to be myself, finally, after all these years." "That sounds like a good plan." We walked to his car together, hand in hand. Behind us, the mansion blazed with light and music, the party continuing despite the drama, or maybe because of it. Wealthy people love a scandal, as long as it's not their own. I didn't look back. That was 3 months ago. The fallout was about what I expected. My parents haven't spoken to me since that night. My father removed me from any leadership positions at the company, though I still technically work there. My mother told my sisters she doesn't know how she'll face her friends. Aunt Patricia has made it her personal mission to tell everyone who will listen about my lifestyle choice. But some things surprised me. My sister Elena calls me every week. My sister Carmen took longer, but she eventually reached out too. Some cousins have been supportive. Others have cut me off completely. It's painful, but it's also clarifying. I'm learning who my real family is, and it's not always the people I share blood with. The business has been complicated. Some clients have been uncomfortable working with me. Others haven't cared at all. I'm looking into starting my own firm, maybe partnering with Javier's architectural company. It's scary, but it's also exciting in a way nothing's been exciting in years. Javier and I are still together. We're taking it slow, figuring out what it means to be in a relationship that's not a secret. It's strange, being able to hold his hand in public, to introduce him as my boyfriend, to post pictures together on social media. Strange, but good. I won't lie and say everything's perfect. I miss my parents, even though I'm angry at them. I miss the security of knowing exactly where I fit in the world, even if that place was based on a lie. Some days are harder than others. Some days I wonder if I did the right thing, if I should have handled it differently. But then I remember what it felt like to stand in that ballroom and finally tell the truth. I remember the weight that lifted off my shoulders when I stopped pretending. And I know, whatever else happens, I can't go back to living that lie. I'm 34 years old and I'm finally learning how to be myself. It's terrifying and liberating and painful and beautiful all at once. And I wouldn't change it for anything. If you're listening to this and you know what I'm talking about, if you've ever felt like you had to hide who you are to make other people comfortable, I want you to know something. You're not alone. I know how scary it is. I know how much you stand to lose. But I also know what you stand to gain. Yourself, finally, completely, without apology. My truth set me free. It cost me a lot, but it gave me more. And if this story touched you, if it made you feel a little less alone, leave a like. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like mine. And if you want, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Or just write, "My truth set me free." Because you're not alone. None of us are. And that's worth more than any $5 million wedding.